All right, hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. We always bring you the most fascinating news, and today is no exception. We've got international politics, a whole lot of tech drama, and some major financial tremors all happening in the past 24 hours, all ready to unpack right here, right now.
And the interesting thing is how these stories all connect to give us a sort of snapshot of what's happening in the world right now.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so first up, remember all that talk about TikTok potentially getting banned in the US?
Yeah.
Well, it actually happened, at least for a little while, just before Trump's inauguration. Locked out something like 170 million users, just like that.
I think a lot of people were focused on the data security concerns, which are, a valid concern.
Right.
But it's interesting how Trump turned this whole thing into a power play.
Yeah.
Remember when he vowed to save TikTok, but only if they formed a joint venture with 50% U.S. ownership? He even said, and I quote, "Without U.S. approval, there is no TikTok. With our approval, it is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, maybe trillions."
Hundreds of billions, maybe trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
That is a lot of money. Makes you realize that it's not just about, like, protecting data, right?
Yeah.
It's about controlling a platform with a ton of financial potential.
Absolutely. And think about all the users and creators out there. Suddenly they're scrambling to find a new platform or build a new audience. I was even reading some reports about people rushing to download VPNs, looking for alternatives, all that kind of stuff.
Like the whole digital landscape shifted,
Yeah.
basically overnight.
Yeah.
And then just when you think things couldn't get any wilder, right?
Yeah.
Perplexity AI, which is this search engine startup, they actually proposed a merger with TikTok's U.S. operation.
Oh,
A search engine and a social media giant. Can you even picture that?
that's a big move, that's for sure. And if it happens, it could, create a whole new kind of tech giant, apparently new capital partners involved too. But it really just shows you how everything's connected these days. Tech, politics, global economics, no easy answers, and the stakes are just incredibly high.
Okay, you ready for another headline that'll make you go, wait, what? This one involves Trump and cryptocurrency.
Okay, this should be interesting.
So just a few days before becoming president again, Trump launches his own cryptocurrency. It's called the Trumpy coin. And get this, the price explodes, going from $10 to over $70 in just 48 hours. Market cap of, get this, $72 billion.
Wow, that's impressive. But I mean, Trump has been pretty vocal about being pro-crypto. So it's
Right.
not totally out of the blue. A
Yeah.
lot of people think his administration will create policies that benefit the whole cryptocurrency market.
But here's the kicker. Trump-affiliated entities hold 80% of the Trump coin tokens.
Oh, wow. So even though it aligns with his goal to make the U.S., quote unquote, the crypto capital of the planet,
Mhm.
it also raises questions about, a president potentially profiting from, like a meme coin.
Yeah.
It's definitely controversial.
Yeah. Anthony Scaramucci, remember him? Former White House communications director.
Yeah.
He had something to say about this on X. He posted, quote, "Now anyone in the world can essentially deposit money into the bank account of the president of the USA with a couple of clicks."
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty serious criticism. It definitely highlights the, potential for conflicts of interest here. And honestly, the perception of it just doesn't look good.
Okay, so we've got a president with his own cryptocurrency, value skyrocketing, potential policy changes coming, criticism everywhere. Really makes you think about power, finance, technology, how it's all coming together in this like new era we're living in.
Definitely makes you think. Lots of potential for disruption, but, some ethical concerns that we need to watch closely.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit here. Zoom out to the global landscape. We've got some big developments in the Middle East and some political drama going on in South Korea, two very different parts of the world, but both showing us how quickly things can change.
And, these international events, they kind of give us a glimpse into how complex and, frankly, how fragile global politics really is.
Yeah.
What happens in one part of the world can have ripple effects, way beyond its borders.
Okay, first up, the Hamas-Israel conflict. After this devastating 15-month war, they finally reached a truce, at least for now.
Right.
The agreement included a hostage exchange, aid deliveries going into Gaza, and of course, a whole lot of political fallout within Israel.
Yeah, and as positive as a truce is, it's going to be really challenging to maintain it. It's going to require some really delicate negotiations and commitment from everyone involved.
Okay, and speaking of political challenges, things are getting pretty heated over in South Korea. The suspended president, Yoon Suk-yeol, is facing some serious charges: insurrection, abuse of power, And things escalated when a judge extended his detention. Protests broke out from his supporters. Some even stormed the courthouse.
It's a reminder that political stability can be really fragile, even in countries that seem to have things, figured out.
So we've got a fragile peace agreement in the Middle East and political turmoil in South Korea. Both situations are showing us just how dramatically, how quickly global stability can shift.
Yeah, these events make it really clear how important it is to, stay informed about what's happening globally.
Right.
Because what happens in one place can really affect us all, even if we don't realize it right away.
Okay, let's bring things a little closer to home now with some Australian business news. We've got companies making strategic moves, some expanding, some pulling back. It's like this constant chess game.
It is. It's fascinating to see how these companies are navigating the complexities of, international markets, how they're adapting to these ever-changing conditions.
Right.
It's a high-stakes game, that's for sure.
Okay, so on one hand, we have Findi, the ASX-listed ATM company.
Right.
They're making some big moves. They just acquired this payments infrastructure player in India called Bankit Services. Cost them about $27 million. Now, I know what you're thinking, ATMs in this day and age with
Right.
digital payments and all,
Right.
but Findi's move is actually really smart.
Well, think about India,
Hmm.
a massive country, rapidly growing economy, but a huge part of the population doesn't have access to traditional banking services.
Right.
That's where Bankit comes in. They've got this amazing network, 120,000 locations across India. People can deposit money, pay bills, even invest, all without a bank account.
Wow, 120,000 locations. That's incredible. So it's not about ATMs anymore. It's about becoming a digital payments powerhouse,
Yeah.
right? Reaching people that the traditional banks have just totally ignored.
Exactly. Findi's trying to become a full-fledged payments bank, and they're doing it really strategically. This acquisition gives them a direct line to a huge untapped market.
Right, and this is all building on their previous acquisition, remember, of Tata Communications Payment Solutions.
Yeah.
That one gave them a huge ATM network and let them connect directly with core banking systems.
That Tata acquisition was really key.
Yeah.
It gave them the infrastructure, the connections they needed to build a, much more comprehensive payments platform. They laid the groundwork, and now they're building this whole structure on top of it.
So they're basically building this digital payments empire, piece by piece.
Yeah.
And their big goal, a massive IPO on the Indian stock market.
Makes sense.
That Indian subsidiary could be worth something like $750 million to $1 billion, which is 5 times their current market cap on the ASX.
It's a pretty big valuation. Really shows you how much potential there is in the Indian market and how smart Findi has been positioning themselves.
Now, on the other side of things, we have Santander, the Spanish banking giant.
Okay.
They're actually thinking about leaving the UK after being there for 2 decades. They're facing lower returns, high costs, regulatory hurdles, all that.
It's a good reminder that even huge established companies have to adapt, right, to changing markets and regulations. Sometimes that means pulling back from one place to focus on growth somewhere else.
So we've got these 2 very different approaches playing out on the world stage. Findi, the underdog, taking this big gamble on a new market.
Yeah.
Santander, the giant, consolidating. Makes you wonder, what does it actually take to succeed in this global economy we're living in?
It seems like adaptability, strategic thinking, and, a willingness to take risks are all key ingredients.
Yeah.
And speaking of success, let's shift gears to a story that's sure to warm your heart. Remember Alita Genetics, the Australian startup using stem cell banking to revolutionize pet healthcare?
Oh yeah, this is such a cool story. It all started with a dog named Edgar Allan Paws. He's predisposed to arthritis, and his owners, Coloma Newton and Jackson Gritching, decided to find a solution, not just for Edgar, but for all pets facing similar challenges.
What a great example of how personal challenges can lead to, real innovation.
Right. Alita Genetics gives pet owners the chance to bank their pets' stem cells during, routine desexing procedures. These cells can then be used for some amazing treatments, things like osteoarthritis, maybe even kidney dysplasia. Can you imagine giving your pet a chance at a healthier, happier life?
And what's really impressive is that they're doing this in a tough fundraising environment. They managed to get funding despite market headwinds, which shows you how strong their idea is, how much potential impact it has.
In an interview, Newton said that one of the biggest misconceptions about stem cells is that they regrow bone. But she explained the real benefit is what they release, the hormones, the compounds that can soften joints and reduce pain, natural pain relief, and a boost to your pet's overall health.
It is important to clarify those misconceptions,
Right.
because while stem cell therapy is super promising, it's also often misunderstood.
Hmm.
Alita Genetics is really focused on improving quality of life, not necessarily extending lifespan, which is an important distinction.
Okay, now for the part that might make some listeners squeamish,
Yeah.
how do they collect the stem cells?
Yeah.
During the desexing procedure, the vet takes a small fat sample.
Okay, but before anyone gets grossed out, this is all done in a sterile environment. And it's part of a routine procedure that many pets already go through. It's a small addition to a surgery that was already planned.
Exactly. So then Alita Genetics processes and stores those stem cells in their facility, ready to be used if the pet ever needs them.
It's pretty simple, non-invasive for the pet, but it could have huge health benefits down the road. A little bit of foresight can make such a big difference.
Imagine, like common pet problems like arthritis, being treated or even prevented using the pet's own stem cells. Pretty amazing, right? And it shows you that even with all the political drama, economic uncertainty, there's still room for innovation, for compassion, for progress, especially when it comes to our furry friends.
Yeah, it's a great reminder that innovation can come from anywhere, often from a personal desire to make a difference.
Okay, let's take a quick peek at how the markets wrapped up the week.
Before we get into the market details, though, I'm curious what stood out to you the most from everything we've talked about.
It's a lot to take in, right? I mean, we've gone from tech giants facing bans to presidents launching their own cryptocurrencies, global conflicts, groundbreaking advancements in pet healthcare. It's a lot.
It is.
But that's what we do here. We break it all down, try to make sense of it all together.
Our goal is to give you the knowledge and insights you need to understand this crazy world and hopefully see the connections between all these seemingly random events.
All right, back to the markets then. Lovisa shares had a nice jump after Morgan Stanley upgraded their rating to overweight. They're citing faster store expansion and naming the retailer a top small cap pick.
Seems like investors are confident in their growth strategy, they're expanding rapidly, and they seem to have found a, winning formula in this retail market.
Now, over in the venture capital scene, Mint Payments is planning a $20 million secondary round. Potentially some investor exits happening. Now, for those who don't follow venture capital, a secondary round means...
It means that existing investors are selling some of their shares,
Right.
which can give new investors an opportunity to get on board. Could be a sign that the company's maturing, getting ready for bigger things.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see who jumps in and what it means for Mint Payments going forward. And finally, in people moves, Nicola Willis got the economic growth role in New Zealand cabinet reshuffle. So now she's tasked with, driving the country's economy forward in 2025.
That appointment seems like a clear sign that New Zealand's prioritizing economic growth. We'll probably see some new policies and initiatives aimed at boosting the economy, in the months and years to come.
Well, there you have it. A whirlwind tour of the past 24 hours in news. Tech, politics, finance, pet healthcare. All connected in ways we might not even realize.
It's been an interesting journey, wouldn't you say?
Definitely.
We've uncovered connections, spotted trends, talked about what all these events mean, both big and small. But remember, this is just the beginning. There's always more to uncover, more to understand, and more to discuss.
Absolutely. And on that note, get ready for another fascinating development. This Findi story in India gets even more interesting, but we're going to delve into that in part 2, our deep dive.
Stay tuned, because what we're about to uncover tells us a lot about how global finance is changing and the bold moves companies are making to stay ahead of the game. Welcome back. So, as promised, we're going to take a closer look at Findi's strategy in India, an ASX-listed company known for, ATM operations. But clearly they're aiming for something much bigger.
Yeah. When I first heard about an ATM company making waves in India, I was like, ATMs? Really?
Yeah.
But the more I learned about their strategy, the more impressed I was.
Yeah.
They acquired Bankit Services, a payment infrastructure company, for something like $27 million. What's so special about Bankit?
Well, you got to think about India for a second. Massive country, rapidly growing economy. But a big chunk of the population doesn't have access to the kinds of banking services that we take for granted.
Right.
And that's where Bankit comes in. They've got this network, something like 120,000 locations across India. People can deposit money, pay bills, even invest without needing a traditional bank account.
120,000 locations. It's amazing. So they're not just about ATMs anymore. They're basically becoming a major player in the whole digital payment scene,
Right.
reaching those who have been left out by the traditional system.
Exactly. Findy's aiming to become a payments bank, basically, and they're doing it piece by piece, very strategic. This acquisition gives them access to a huge market that no one else is really tapping into.
And it all builds on that previous acquisition, remember, of Tata Communications Payment Solutions. That gave them like a huge boost to their ATM network, plus connections to those core banking systems.
Yeah, that Tata acquisition was crucial.
Right.
That's what gave them the infrastructure, the connections they needed to build a whole payments platform. They laid the groundwork, and now they're building the house.
And the potential payoff is huge. I mean, their Indian subsidiary, it could be valued at like $750 million to $1 billion after the IPO on the Indian stock market, 5 times what they're currently worth on the ASX.
Yeah, it's a big valuation. Shows you the potential in India and how well Findi has positioned themselves to take advantage of it.
It's like a classic underdog story,
Yeah.
and an Aussie company taking on the world. What do you think are the biggest challenges they'll face?
Well, navigating the regulations in India can be tough. Plus, they'll be up against some big established players in that payments market, but they seem to really understand the market, and they're not afraid to adapt, so I think they're definitely a company to watch.
It's interesting, right, how companies have to evolve, how they have to adapt in this globalized world. You can't just stick with what you know. You got to be willing to explore, take some risks.
Absolutely. Findi's showing us how important it is to make strategic acquisitions, find those growth markets, and be bold. It's a lesson for any business, no matter the size.
Okay, so we've covered some pretty intense stuff today. I mean, tech giants, presidents, and their crypto, global politics. It's a lot.
It is.
But before we wrap up, I want to revisit one more story. It's a good one, kind of a heartwarming one amidst all the chaos.
Right, let's go back to Alita Genetics.
Yeah.
That Australian startup that's using stem cell banking to, like, completely change how we think about pet healthcare.
I love this story.
Yeah.
It all started with a dog, Edgar Allan Poe.
Right.
And he was predisposed to arthritis. His owners, Paloma Newton and Jackson Gritching, they were determined to help him, and that led them to create this company that could help so many pets.
Their dedication is inspiring, shows how personal challenges can lead to amazing innovation. They saw a problem and they fixed it. That's what entrepreneurship is all about.
What I find really impressive is that they're making stem cell therapy, which can be expensive, accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
Vets can collect the stem cells during routine desexing. Makes this cutting-edge technology available to so many more pet owners. It's like they're democratizing healthcare for our furry friends.
It's a game changer for the pet healthcare industry for sure.
And they did all this in a tough fundraising environment. To get funding despite the market, that's incredible. It really shows how much they believe in their mission.
It does. Investors clearly see the value in what they're doing, and it's not just about profit, it's about making a real difference.
In their interview, Newton and Gritching were very clear. They're not about extending lifespan. It's about quality of life. They want to see pets living their best lives pain-free.
It's a powerful message. Every pet owner wants to see their furry friend happy and healthy, and Alita Genetics is making that possible.
Oh, okay, now for the slightly squeamish part. How do they collect the stem cells? Well, Newton explained that during the desexing procedure, the vet takes a small, fat sample.
Now, before anyone gets too grossed out, this is all done in a sterile environment as part of a routine procedure.
Right.
It's a tiny addition to an already scheduled surgery, and it could make such a difference down the road.
Alita Genetics then takes those stem cells, they process them, store them, ready to be used whenever the pet needs them. It's like a health insurance policy for your pet's future.
Simple, non-invasive, and potentially life-changing. It's really amazing what they're doing.
Imagine, like arthritis in pets, being treated or even prevented with pets' own stem cells. Pretty incredible future we're looking at. Even with all the uncertainty in the world, there are people out there making things better, not just for humans, but for our animal companions too.
Alita Genetics' story is so inspiring. It reminds us that innovation can come from the most unexpected places, and it's often driven by this desire to solve problems and make a difference.
It really gives you hope for the future. It makes you think, how can we use our own skills and passions to make the world a better place? Well, we've explored this world full of contradictions today. Political power plays, amazing advancements, and everything in between. But as we move on to the final part of our deep dive, keep in mind, the world's changing constantly. It's up to us to stay informed, engage with what matters, and find our place in this ever-evolving landscape.
Wow, we've covered so much in this deep dive. I mean, we've gone from political dramas to, like, some seriously cool advancements in pet healthcare. Feels like the world is changing faster than ever, right? It's definitely been a whirlwind looking at all these events. But the really interesting thing is how all these stories, even though they seem so different, actually connect together to reveal these bigger trends and raise some really important questions.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we've zoomed in and out of what's happening globally, and you start to see how technology, politics, and finance, they're all intertwined, shaping the world we live in.
Remember that whole TikTok situation? It wasn't just about a social media app. It was about national security, economic interests, political maneuvering, all playing out on a global scale.
Right. And then you've got Trump launching his own cryptocurrency, which
Yeah.
honestly, that's just wild. It really makes you think about like the future of money, how governments are going to regulate these new technologies, and even, is it ethical for a president to have a financial stake in a market like that?
It's a bold move for sure, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But it really highlights a key point from our deep dive today. We're living in a time of massive disruption and innovation. Things are changing faster than ever, and we've got to stay informed and be ready to adapt.
Absolutely. And it's not just about understanding the changes. It's about asking ourselves, okay, what does this mean for me personally? How does all this stuff impact my life, my choices, my future?
That's the real question, isn't it? We can't just sit back and watch. We need to engage with what's happening, think critically about all the information coming at us, and make choices that align with what we believe in.
We talk a lot on this show about staying informed.
Right.
And it's for good reason. There's so much information out there, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
But it's so important to be careful about what you believe, to find sources you can trust, and to be willing to challenge your own assumptions.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, to dig a little deeper, to consider different perspectives. The more informed we are, the better we'll be able to navigate this complex, ever-changing world.
And remember, you're not just watching all this happen. You're a part of it. Your actions, your choices, your voice, they all matter.
Absolutely.
Think about that Elita Genetics story. They saw a problem, something that needed to be fixed, and they took action. They didn't wait for someone else to do it. They did it themselves. That's the kind of proactive, innovative spirit we need to see more of in the world.
It's inspiring, right? It gives you hope. Even with all the chaos and uncertainty, there are people out there working to make things better, pushing the boundaries of what's possible, creating a better future. And we can all be a part of that.
Exactly. We can all be a part of it, whether it's through our work, our passions, or just by having thoughtful conversations and challenging the status quo. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with this thought. Stay curious, stay engaged, and never stop learning. The world is full of possibilities. It's up to us to shape the future we want to see.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep pushing those boundaries, and never underestimate the power of your own voice. You can make a difference.
Thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery, and we'll see you back here soon for another deep dive into this fascinating, ever-changing world.